All right, guys, welcome to Flavo Rihanna's MMA show. I'm your host, Flavo Rihanna, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. All right, guys, so UFC 276 is officially in the books. All right, it was marketed and spoken about that it would be one of the best cards of the year. From top to bottom on paper, it was. I mean, you had a stack card starting with Jessica Rose Clark versus Juliana Storyalenko, all the way up into the main event that you had Israel Adesanya versus Jarred Cannonier. I mean, for crying out loud, guys, we had Uriah Hall versus Andre Muniz. All right, and all that stuff looked great on paper. Muniz versus Hall was the featured bout on the early prelims. All right, when do you ever see Uriah Hall on the early prelims? All right, that's how stacked the card was on paper. But then again, you don't judge fights how they look on paper. You have to wait until they're all done and clear. And I'll just say it right now, this pay-per-view was not as good as the one that happened last month when you had Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira. I mean, that pay-per-view was phenomenal. All right, the main card was phenomenal. All right, the main card for UFC 276 just didn't live up. I mean, you had a lot of stuff that you had to deal with. Opening up the main card, we had Pedro Munoz versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. This was going to be the first fight of the pay-per-view opener, but why don't we just start off with the main event, just because that's what we all normally need to talk about. It was Israel Adesanya versus Jarred Cannonier. Jarred Cannonier's first title shot opportunity. All right, at middleweight, he was on a run. Recently defeated Derek Brunson back in February, actually on the same card that Adesanya fought Robert Whittaker in the rematch. Okay, and Cannonier knocked out. He ended up knocking out Brunson. Called a shot. Wanted Adesanya. All right, they booked the fight. Adesanya, Adesanya and Cannonier were booked for International Fight Week. And to start off the main event, you had Adesanya walking out as the Undertaker with the urn engraved in the urn. It said Jarred. I thought that was cool. That was great. That's something that a lot of folks, pro wrestling fans. All right, I was a pro wrestling fan back in the day when I was about 7-8 years old, up until maybe I was like 14. All right, I love that stuff. It gave me a lot of nostalgia. All right, seeing the walk of the Undertaker, it was phenomenal. And what made it even better, I mean, the UFC broadcast showed you had Vince McMahon, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon. All right, you even had Jim Ross, good old JR. All right, attending the UFC fight. All right, and that's just to show you that the UFC is growing. All right, towards a more casual audience. All right, and just to see Israel Adesanya come out with the Undertaker theme song, with the smoke coming out, with the urn, with the hat too. All right, it would have been cool to see him come out with that long trench coat. All right, but we got to realize this isn't the WWE. All right, we want that. We can always rewind back. This is the UFC. All right, and he had to come out with the Venom fight gear, which is understandable. Okay. Anyways, going into the fight, I had betted on Adesanya, which that landed. All right. I predicted that Adesanya was going to knock out Jarred Cannonier inside the third round, going into the fourth round, and I was completely wrong. All right. Just because I fell, I got to say, I fell for it. I fell for what Adesanya was saying. When he was saying in the press conference that he was in a style on Cannonier. Well, he lied to us, all right? And I can't afford to be lied on anymore by these UFC fighters because they talk a lot of nonsense. They talk a lot of garbage, all right? And it ended up coming out to be one of the more, I wouldn't say this is on the esque of Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, okay? But this definitely didn't live up to the hype that Adesanya was selling it on, all right? Because Adesanya was playing tit for tat, all right? And I can't really blame it on him, all right? Because Jarred Cannonier has one punch knockout power, and you can't fight Adesanya thinking that you're gonna be able to out kickbox him, because that's what he's been able to do, all right? He, knocks out people if they try to come near close to him. And I guess maybe Jarred Cannonier didn't want to be highlight reels the way that they keep on showing the Robert Whittaker knockout when Adesanya ended up winning the belt from Whittaker, or when Adesanya ended up hurting Gaslam in that epic fight, which me personally, that has to be one of the best Adesanya fights that he has ever had in the UFC. All right, just because Gaslam came into that fight, didn't care whatsoever he was going to get hurt or not. He took it on the chin and he was just there battling. All right. But Jarred Cannonier, it takes two to tango. Okay. It takes two people to fight. And Cannonier wasn't really trying to engage for the majority of the fight as to try to knock out Israel Adesanya's head off. Right. And Adesanya was just going to play his style, hit you, leg kick you, punch you, and then move out the way. All right, making sure that you have to chase him, that he's the matador and you're the bull. All right, and whenever it's that type of a fight style, I'm always gonna favor I'm always gonna favor Israel Adesanya, not Jarred Cannonier. All right. And Jarred Cannonier, he needed to make it an ugly fight. The only round that I gave Jarred Cannonier was round 3. It was when he made it ugly, when he ended up grinded it against the fence. But you could have also made it a case for Adesanya, just because Adesanya wasn't really getting hit that much. All right, he never really was in any type of danger, even inside the clinch. And Cannonier needed to do that. All right, he needed to rough up Adesanya due to any means necessary, and he just wasn't able to do that for a full 25 minutes. He was able to do that for about 3 minutes in round 3, but it just wasn't enough, just because Adesanya was just coasting. He was just, he was just hitting you in different angles. He was hitting the legs. He was attacking the lead leg. He was making Cannonier switch styles. All right, switch from orthodox to from righty to lefty, right? I just think personally this was just a bad matchup for Jarred Cannonier. Will this be the last time that we see Cannonier in a title shot? More than likely, yeah. Because of the fact that Cannonier, he had his opportunity and he just didn't make this a fight that fans are going to want to rewatch or are going to clamor saying that, he deserves another shot at the title. He had his shining moment in the sun, and he just wasn't able to grab it. He wasn't able to try to snatch the title away from Adesanya. All he wanted was, what it seemed like from the outside looking in, he wanted to just stick around 25 minutes with the champ, see if he could hang around with him, and then hopefully land that one-punch knockout power. That is a terrible game plan. I fully advise a lot of fighters to not follow that type of game plan, because that stuff is never going to work. All right. Unfortunately, the game plan usually has to be more of a Kelvin Gastelum type of style. All right. And it's a very high risk, but a very high reward type of style, because yes, you're going to get hit. You're going to get clipped. Adesanya is a very good counter puncher and stuff like that. But you're going to have to take a lot of risks in order to try to defeat Israel Adesanya. Okay. We saw with Jan Blachowicz. I know Jan Blachowicz is a lot bigger man. That's when Adesanya moved up to the light heavyweight. Blachowicz was getting pieced up from the outside, and Blachowicz had to go for a takedown, and then he just muscled his way in and then made it dirty. And that's the way that you're going to have to beat Adesanya. You're going to have to beat him either the way that Blachowicz is, or you're just going to have to take it on the chin, bite your mouth guard, all right, and just keep on attacking Adesanya, all right, and then hoping that you're able to at least knock him down and then capitalize on that moment, all right. So you have two different avenues, all right. The Kelvin Gastelum fight, I thought that he had an opportunity to defeat Adesanya, but Adesanya was just, he had more will in that fight, and I think the chin of Gastelum was just starting to deteriorate as we're going into the later rounds, and it ended up allowing us to see Adesanya winning the interim title belt in Atlanta of that year. I think it was 2019. But yeah, guys, that was the main event. Co-main event is something that we all wanted to see. Alex Volkanovski, the champ, versus Max Holloway. To me, this was the fight to see who is the best current featherweight that we have currently right now. I wasn't going to say all time, all right, just because I feel like Volkanovski would need a little bit more of a bigger resume, all right. But if Max were to win, then I would have favored Max to be the greatest featherweight of all time, all right. But this fight wasn't even close. All right, as the main event was, this fight wasn't even close. I think Alexander Volkanovski had pitched a perfect game. He had dominated, and he didn't even allow Holloway to get started. All right. All 5 rounds I gave Volkanovski. All right, it was a 50-45. All right. If you guys didn't watch the first 2 fights and you saw the third fight, you're probably wondering why did the UFC give Max Holloway another opportunity to fight for the belt. Well, I'm glad to say that this will be the final time that he would need to fight Volkanovski, just because I think the days of Max Holloway cutting down to 145 should be over. I mean, he cuts a lot of weight, and Volkanovski is just getting better and better and better. All right. You see the massive improvements from fight 1 at UFC 245 to fight 2 at UFC 251, now to fight 3 at UFC 276. Massive improvements in the Volkanovski camp. All right. Those guys with Joe Lopez and Eugene Behrman really have a good idea on how to bring up their fighters. All right. You see Behrman and Lopez, working side by side with Volkanovski, and Volkanovski, the way that he's cutting angles, the way that he's attacking, all right, dodging hooks, dodging, crosses and stuff like that. Volkanovski is just getting, better at a very rapid pace, and it's scary because, when he won the title, I thought that he was in his prime, but it seemed like he's just entering his prime right now, all right? And Volkanovski has beaten people of the likes of Chad Mendes, all right? Jose Aldo. He's beaten he's beaten Holloway 3 times. Defeated Brian Ortega. Defeated the Korean Zombie, all right? 5 fighters right there, all right? What's next for Volkanovski? Now, do I agree what he had said that he had cleaned out the division? Absolutely not. He did not clean out the division. There's a lot for him to do. Defeating Max Holloway 3 times does not mean that you had cleaned out the division. All right. He has had 4 title defenses. All right. I would love to see him stick around at 145, but he has already been voicing his opinions that he wants to go out to lightweight and be a double champ and try to defend the belt in 2 different weight classes. I fully respect that about Volkanovski. All right, this fight was not boring whatsoever. This was a very tactical fight. He left Holloway with a very big gash above his right eyebrow, and it was pretty bad. I mean, at one point I was thinking, wow, if Holloway doesn't move that head of his, this fight's gonna be over due to doctor stoppage. And I'm glad that the UFC cutman was able to stop that bleeding. I mean, they put a lot of Vaseline on that cut, and that gash was huge. All right, it was huge. But I would love to see Volkanovski stick around. He didn't really take much damage through these 5 rounds. He had a small little minor cut, but that'll be fine. I would love to see him fight Josh Emmett or Yair Rodriguez if Yair Rodriguez does defeat Brian Ortega. All right. By the way, I'll be attending that card on Long Island in about less than 2 weeks. But yeah, I would love to see him fight either Yair Rodriguez or Josh Emmett. Me personally, I do believe that Josh Emmett, should be next, right? But this is not a meritocracy, right? We all know that Yair Rodriguez is the bigger name, and if Yair Rodriguez does defeat Brian Ortega, we will be seeing Yair versus Alexander Volkanovski. Both Volkanovski has voiced his opinions that he does also want to go up. So what should be the option for Volkanovski? Me personally, I think that Volkanovski should try to stick around at featherweight. But if the UFC is going to offer him an opportunity to fight Charles Oliveira, I'll tell him to take it. My whole thing is I don't favor him to fight Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is just way too good. He's also getting better too. And trust me, nobody's is going to want to grapple with this guy. All right. I can already see how that fight will end up going down. And I can see Oliveira by submission. That's just my opinion. But yeah, guys, UFC 276. Did it live up to the hype? It didn't. All right. On a gymnastics scorecard, how would I rate it? I would have to rate, the main card itself about 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10, maybe 5 out of 10. All right, just because of the stuff that has been going down. All right. I'm gonna put out more videos about the fights that happened on the card, but I just really wanted to talk about the main event and the co-main event. But yeah, guys, thank you for tuning in to Flav Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Oriana. Please hit the like and subscribe button, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Please enjoy the 4th of July weekend, and I'll see you guys at a later date. See you guys and have a good one. Peace.